Again, my name is Pete Wassell. Besides being the digital eyewear champion here at AWE, I've got a company in New York City, Augmate. We do software for digital eyewear, visual efficiency tools. I also run a little forum on LinkedIn called AR Glasses. It's been up for 1 year, and there's already 2,100 members in that discussion group. Professional group, the scientists, the engineers, the people that really care about the technology. And I suspect that's perhaps one of the reasons why I'm here. There's been more of a focus on AR glass technology at this expo and within the last year. To me, this indicates that the tides are changing in the direction of this new platform. It's my prediction that within 7 years, AR glass technology will replace smartphones. That's my opinion. Before you sits a panel of distinguished experts in digital eyewear and augmented vision. I would like each panel member to introduce themselves now. I think I'm going to pass this microphone to each of them for now.
Hi, I'm Meron, Gribetz, CEO and founder of Meta.
Hello, I'm Judith Baumgarten from Fraunhofer Comet in Dresden, Germany.
Hi, I'm Anna Jen from Epson America. We're the developers of the Epson Moverio transparent smart glasses.
Hi, I'm Kayvan Mirza. I'm CEO of Optinvent, developers of the Aura augmented reality display.
Hi, I'm Steve Mann, Chief Scientist of Meta, and I'm also a professor at University of Toronto, and I'm also General Chair of the IEEE ISTAS 2013 conference that's running in Toronto on June 26th to 29th.
I'm John Murray. I'm CEO of Seebright, introducing the Spark. I'm also a PhD student at the Expressive Intelligence Studio at UCSC.
Steve Willey, CEO Innovega, with big, rich, contact lens-enabled eyewear. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ron Heidinger from Vuzix Corporation. I'm our AR and VR evangelist.
Nice, and I'll just make an announcement. There was one other panel member that we had, Palmer Luckey from Oculus Rift. There was an unfortunate accident where his co-founder was in a car accident and killed a couple days ago, so he's not able to make it. So our hearts and prayers go out to Andrew Reese and his family. Okay, the format of this panel discussion will be Q&A. We'll start from the audience's left-hand side and go through. I'll be asking a question, and there'll be a 1-minute response time from each of our distinguished panel experts. And we will begin. What we'll try to do is maybe like at like 55 seconds or so, we'll try to give a little indication that it's time to pass the mic, pass the floor to the next person. Okay, so to get to the first question, my first question is, what is the value proposition of digital eyewear? So an example of a value proposition, my favorite example of a value proposition is Dawn cuts grease. I got greasy pans in the sink, and I want it gone. Dawn cuts grease. So, right, a value proposition is, saves time, saves money, is more efficient, is more productive, makes an environment safer, more accurate. What is the value proposition of digital eyewear?
Thanks, Pete. It's abstraction. So it's all of the devices that we carry around us every day, the laptops, the phones, the tablets, even those we don't carry around, the television sets, suddenly abstracted into one potentially infinite screen around us. 2 screens, one for each eye, representing full-bodied 3D, and the ability to interact with it with the controllers that have evolved to manipulate our environment. The idea of manipulating a spreadsheet with your voice is toilsome. And this is our value proposition, abstraction, taking away all of that bulk, all of that, everything in your carrying bag, and just making it into one beautiful pair of Ray-Bans.
So from my point of view, an enormous pro for digital eyewear is the capability of making a computer interface for people that are not able to use normal computer interfaces. So maybe you have an ALS or locked-in syndrome, so they have to lay in bed and can't take some interaction with their environment. And with digital eyewear, they are able to switch the light on and off or make it brighter or use the jalousie of their window. Yeah, that's the biggest point from my point of view.
We kind of think about wearable, transparent wearable smart display as the fourth screen. If you think about TV as the first screen, your computer as your second screen, and handheld mobile devices as your third screen, the wearable glasses will be your fourth screen with limitless applications, and really kind of an exciting time to be on the ground floor.
I think for me, one of the obvious value propositions is hands-free. For me, that's a key for wearables. That's why we wear them, to liberate our hands. The other one is always on.
To me, I think the real value proposition is helping people see better. That's the fundamental purpose of eyeglasses that we normally wear. So I think eyeglass, we call this digital eyeglass as opposed to eyeglasses, I think the value proposition of first and foremost is to help people see better. Secondly, is to improve the quality of life and to in everyday life to overlay additional information, but not just to overlay, but to augmediate, to diminish, to help people see better by adding and subtracting when and where appropriate to do so in order to facilitate improved eyesight and also to help people live better quality of life. And lastly, safety, of course, because personal safety and keeping track of where you are and wayfinding, never getting lost. And of course, if you're the victim of a hit and run, at least mitigating some of the injustice that might be there.
I think of the word medium. I think actually augmented eyewear is an opportunity to introduce a new medium through which humans can communicate experiences to one another. I think this is a way for us to communicate in the same way that film is, in the same way that we're awash in media through text and through print. We can be participants in it only if we can communicate through it as well as be communicated experiences through it. So to do that, you have to reach a larger audience than a few, because if print only reached an audience of 1,000, it wouldn't have nearly the cultural impact that it does. So AR as a medium, I feel, is probably its most fundamental change.
I can see there's a problem being at the end of the line because a lot of good stuff's already been said. But I guess I'd add to that the part of the proposition for Innovega is that this is much more than a display. And if we think of it more as your natural, comfortable, familiar, very highly personalized interface to your digital content to improve the quality of your life, your excitement, your well-being, that's just an important part. The fact that we're building on a very familiar platform, a pair of glasses, I think is important because it's allowing us to integrate very quickly, and that ends up offering much more to the consumer, quicker, faster, better. Thanks.
I guess one of the things that's a little different with Vuzix is we actually make a number of different eyewear products, mostly tuned to different markets. The one right now that's catching a lot of attention is the M100 that I'm wearing, and it's primarily an enabling product. It allows you to be connected either to a smartphone or the cloud 24/7, and it can be used in many interesting ways, such as SAP just announced a couple of weeks ago a new product using the M100 for warehouses and inventory controls, where when a forklift operator is moving down the aisle to pick stock, he can be aware of other equipment in the area, another forklift that might suddenly come out from another aisle. They can automatically pick inventory, have it removed from the database, all hands-free. So it's an enablement for both safety, efficiency, and so forth.
Okay, excellent. The next question is, what are the digital issues? What are the issues that still need to be worked out with digital eyewear? So, for example, is it battery life? Is it design? Is it the weight? Does it have to do with latency? You know, any of those types of issues. I had started the AR glasses discussion group about a year ago to try to solve some of these issues with a number of smart people that are on that group. I think we've made some progress. I think there are still issues that need to be tackled. Maybe to be fair, I could start from this side. So what are the remaining issues that need to be worked out in order to achieve broad adoption and you know, the tipping point for you know, a critical mass and really get this technology accelerated?
Well, most of the things that you mentioned are very valid, but I think probably the thing that we feel is of the greatest importance is it has to be transparent and seamless for the user to make use of it. You can put just about any technology on a person's head, but if they don't feel comfortable going out and actually using it, there's very little value. So seamless interface, I guess I would say, is the most important.
People are going to want to wear these devices, and that's everything from the physical metrics of how does it look and what does it weigh, and is it bulky and ugly, and is it safe, etc. At Innovega, we've set the bar very high in terms of its entertainment potential, sort of big, rich media. It is fully transparent, but it's got a very large field of view, sort of an IMAX quality, immersive gaming field of view. It's a megapixel display, and a lot of other parameters that we've set, exceedingly high, actually. And all this has to fall into a very familiar, comfortable piece of eyewear. So on our side, we just don't want to lose sight of the fact that the consumer at the end of the day has lots of ways to spend their money. And we're going to have to blow them away to extract money for these for the eyewear products.
So it's not just technological issues I think we have, it's cultural, interpersonal issues. These are the things where if you're talking to somebody and they have a camera pointed at you out of their eye, it interferes with how you think they're observing you. So I think most of these issues of acceptance are not going to be solved immediately. They're going to be things that are evolved as people come to accept it. The immediate question, of course, is affordability. Like, can you justify a certain price tag for the value proposition of the eyewear? If you lower the price tag, then you can perhaps justify more simple uses, maybe even a variety of tiny uses, just as casual apps and free apps on the App Store have essentially made the smartphone indispensable. Not one single app is on anyone's phone. It's a whole variety of uses. And the ways that we can find exactly how augmented reality can fit into our lives is exploring these opportunities for these moments in our life where maybe a smartphone isn't the best way to experience a piece of media. Maybe it isn't the best way to experience this game or this useful recipe display. Maybe, in fact, it's something else other than a pair of eyeglasses.
Yeah, I guess touching on that concept, you mentioned the idea of a camera and that sort of thing. I think that's interesting. The valence-related issues, I think, are going to come up. People are comfortable with surveillance, but surveillance is a relatively new phenomenology, so I think it's going to take a little bit while. I think we'll reach what I call the equivalence tipping point, or you know, what I call what we like to call the sensularity. You know, like the singularity, but it's really about sensing, not about computing. And so the sensularity is this point at which the mediated intelligence, in which surveillance takes over surveillance, or overtakes surveillance. And I think that will be a really important point. As far as what the industry needs to get right, I think PoE is one very fundamental thing that the industry hasn't clued into yet. And I think that also, you know, true interaction, natural kind of interface. We have to move away from this notifier type thing, like a fire bell that goes ding and you look up to see it, to something that's more, as Meron would say, kind of natural. You know, so when I originally coined the term natural user interface, I was trying to suggest that the industry should move towards modes of interaction that are natural, in two senses. One, natural to use, just like feels natural, and second, that nature-based, like, you know, natural touching things and real objects, and getting rid of the boundary between cyberspace and the real world.
Wow, what a long list of things that need improvement and issues. I think I'll start by saying that first and foremost, getting back to the value proposition, it's a wearable display, so it's hands-free and always on. I think those are the main issues that we need to resolve in order to convey this value proposition, because I think a lot of people don't get the value proposition of the digital eyewear. Again, the fact that it's hands-free means that it's got to be wearable, means that it has to be lightweight, it has to be ergonomic, it has to be, you know, well-designed. You know, I think all these issues are related to the display. It's a wearable display, I think, at the end of the day, first and foremost, and I think we at Optinvent have tried to solve a lot of those issues with our Aura display, which is see-through, which has the dual modes. I invite you to come and see our booth. I'm gonna plug our company just like everyone else, huh? We have the dual modes, so the augmented reality mode that's in front of, you know, your field of view, and then a dashboard mode which switches down. I think a lot of these types of issues need to be solved in order for people to think that this is a useful device. I think we all get it here, but you know, the public at large needs to see that value proposition clearly, and I think that's the main issue.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, you know, to enable this kind of a more pervasive adoption of smart transparent glasses as the fourth display, you need companies like Epson. You know, we pride ourselves as being kind of the leader in projection technology, consistently globally top 10 in terms of patents awarded. And so with our company's technological resources, manufacturing competency, and the fact that we're investing tremendously in this category, you know, we really think that we're going to help, you know, drive the development of the enabling glass platform. And from our perspective, we like to partner with developers such as Meta, Apex Labs. You know, they're going to bring their technological creativity and abilities to kind of bring together that total solution. So in terms of, you know, it's an ecosystem. And, you know, from Epson, I think you're going to see us really drive the enabling base hardware technology. And we're going to rely on all you smart people out there to kind of build the rest of the ecosystem. And we invite you, you know, here's a shameless plug for Epson. We invite you to come to our booth to take a look at what some of our partners are developing.
Yeah, okay, most things on my list were already said. So I would like to part it into two things, the technical things and the personal things. So the technical things are, of course, the field of view. It has to be large to reach the full immersion, and the display brightness in sunny environments is, of course, a big thing. For our systems, it's important to do 3D eye tracking and 3D projection. And of course, maybe we will add some other techniques to serve other senses as well, such as smell or touch or something. And the personal things are the physio-psychic implications on kids, because their brains are still on building themselves, and the next things are visual fatigues and, of course, some different forms of feeling unwell.
Gosh, there's so many answers. So I would agree with John that, and to some agree, Steve, that we're going to reach an equilibrium of surveillance and surveillance. I just think that there should be a LED indicator that I'm recording you while I'm staring at you. And we should put our foot on the ground at the beginning and make these kinds of decisions, because we're going to architect the future of interaction, and it's going to be a big turning point right now, and we have a lot of power there. So that's number one. Building off of what Steve said about the three kinds of machine, the reason Steve and I met is because in a conference we got talking about the natural user interface. And I came up with the idea of a natural machine separately, and we met and we discussed it, and it was the same exact thing, and it was perfect. So there are three categories in my mind. There's the notifier machine. It's your low CPU, low GPU pop-up notification in the corner of your eye. Where am I going next? How am I getting there? And when's the next train there? Then there's the Matrix machine with my friend Palmer, really pioneering that kind of wearable computer where I am teleported to another reality, leaving my body and my world behind. So there's a cost of taking the red pill. But it's a very cool device, and I think it's gonna be the primary way we consume video, movies, and old world gaming. And then there's the natural machine, which I don't have to elaborate on after Steve mentioned it. It's innate. It uses our natural controllers, and it's kind of inclusive of the world in your code. So those are the three things, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, very good. The next question to the panel, I guess we could go back this way. Start in the middle. Start in the middle. Okay, I like it. So the next question is, what is the killer app for digital eyewear? We could either use the term killer app, you could use, let's say, business use case, industry application that's most useful for digital eyewear.
Oh, great. I should have started on the other side. That's a frustrating question. There is no killer app for digital eyewear. There is no killer app. There are many killer apps. We always try to hammer the point home that this is a platform that allows a brand new category of applications and use modes to exist. So to answer that question, sorry to not answer the question, but that there is no killer app. It's all those things. There's industrial applications, warehousing, medical, military, situation awareness. There are consumer-based applications, just simple messaging, like the Google Glass type Glansat displays. There are full-on augmented reality experiences. There's video. It's all these things, and that's kind of why I'm very glad that we have more people in this panel than previous years, where we were kind of the lone crusaders of eyewear with Epson and Vuzix. But it's good to see that there's more and more people in this space, because I think that proves that there are so many segments and so many applications to target. And I think calling this a face-off isn't really fair. For me, I think we're not all playing in one space. The space is big enough where we can all play to different aspects of that space. And every one of us is going to try to target a killer app. We're trying to target several killer apps with our Aura eyewear, with, as I explained, the dual mode, the fact that it's see-through. But Vuzix is going to take another angle, Epson's going to take another angle, and I think that, again, the space is just starting.
Okay, thank you. I have to agree. I mean, the application are really limitless. We're so impressed at Epson by the developers who have come forth to us and just blown our minds away with how they're leveraging our Moverio glasses in really novel applications. I mean, I definitely invite all of you to go see the Meta demonstration, which kind of the natural computing. In our booth, we have Apex Lab, which uses head tracking as a way, hands-free. So there's many applications, especially in the area of industrial and productivity, where you need the hands to be doing repairs, or you need the hands to be doing something. But the transparent display can still be navigated using head tracking. And we're, again, just constantly amazed by the ideas that people have brought forth to us, either at trade shows or contacted us through our Moverio developer website. We recently ran an IEEE CS contest, and just some amazing ideas.
Yeah, I have to agree that there's not the one and only killer app. So there are different fields, and we got requests from security, teaching, education, and sightseeing for consumers, or such things. I think.
Virtual sculpting tool. So in the natural machine scenario, I'm using my hands to interact with digital media. superimposed, registered to objects in the real world. And really, the highest abstraction to that comes from the arts. And the idea that I can sculpt in minute resolution and great tracking a block of clay or virtual stone is the highest kind of abstraction. From there, an architect can build a home and stop building it out of the twig models that they currently do and texture it and color it. A surgeon can perform surgery while having a 3D CAT scan image attached to the body, and it can be rotated. I mean, obviously it's a difficult question, but that's where I would go. I mean, in the VisiCalc being the killer app of yesteryear, there was a shift forward because those machines specialized in a combination of graphical user interface as well as informational user interface. I think that Google nailed it with the informational user interface of eyewear. So now all that's left is graphical. And when you have the ability to sculpt like that, that's where it's going to come from.
Yeah, I think I'd like to begin by taking issue with the question. I'm sort of not really interested in killer apps. Well, there's plenty of people who would love to mount this on a gun sight to be able to kill more people more quickly. I think that when we think of apps and a particular focus, it sort of reminds me of computer-supported cooperative work, the research. And I said, well, there's something that bothers me about that. I'm almost more into computer-supported cooperative living. And so the app is the very absence of apps in my mind. And I think that it is kind of, there's a kind of meta-narrative there that says, well, in real life, we're living. And back in 1997, I wrote a paper on the wearable face recognizer, a paper entitled Visual Memory Prosthetic, VMP. And it helps people remember better and live better quality of life, remember names and faces, just in quality life, improving the quality of life, helping people see better, helping people improve the quality of life, helping people live safely, better. That, to me, is an anti-app, sort of just, it's the background life and life itself and living a more full life.
I'd like to agree with some of the other panelists who have said there isn't a single killer app, and using the killer app in the non-lethal sense. I also think that it is, in some ways, like the web. It is the nature of the ability to create apps that's almost more important than the apps themselves. The accessibility of the web took off because anyone could put a piece of text up on the internet and be seen by millions. If there are barriers to entry to create these apps, we're not going to get the long tail of the types of uses that are good for maybe 10 people or 100 people. So it is not so much the app itself, but the nature of the platform, the fact that it can be open, the fact that it can be interoperable, the fact that it can perhaps even use the web, and the power of the web to move information in useful ways for people in specific instances in their life that will make augmented reality essentially a useful app, not necessarily a killer app.
I guess it's fair to say we have a bias at Innovega. We have a purpose-built pair of eyewear with a big field of view, big resolution, big F number, big eye box, etc. It's purpose-built for entertainment, and we think that gaming and films and videos and all the AR applications we're seeing here at the show are just going to be really important. That being said, as this moves from a display to an interface, what's really required is that suite of applications, and the mating of the eyewear to that suite of applications is mandatory. When you buy a smartphone today, you just expect to have a nav program, you expect to have a music player, a video player, and the same thing will apply as we buy our new natural interfaces. That facility and suite of applications will be expected. So we need to think about that as an industry. It's not just a piece of hardware, just a display.
Vuzix has been building and marketing eyewear since 1997, and in approximately 15 years, one thing that we've certainly learned is there is no killer app it depends upon the market. What's wanted for industry is one thing, what's wanted for medical is another thing, what's wanted for military is a totally different thing. And I think that even though most of us agree on that there is no single killer app, I think one of the responsibilities of the eyewear industry is to make our product adaptable to the various segments of the market so we can service their needs, and the killer app will come from there.
Okay, and you know I had to ask that question. We'll start in the middle on this side for the next question. So recently, Congress asked Google what they are doing to protect privacy. They sent in, the PDF is available online. It was from Congress. It was signed from, I think it was 8 different members of Congress. My question is, how would you answer that question for what you're doing about privacy when it comes to digital eyewear, or what do you think about the subject of privacy?
I guess I would start by saying, well, I think of this as the field of privalence. I mean, I've written about this notion of privalence, privacy and valence. That is to say, the right not to be looked at and the right to look at our watch. And so there's a delicate balance here. Now, in the surveillance community, this balance has been dealt with by hiding the cameras in mysterious domes of wine dark opacity, making sure there's no record light on the camera to indicate when it's recording, putting lots of dummy cameras around throughout the facility, put hundreds of these domes that hide so you can't see which way the camera's pointing, or even if there's a camera in there. Some of the domes in the hotel, if you look in carefully and shine a flashlight in there and put your camera there on a long exposure, you can actually see that there's 4 lenses inside it, looking in different directions. So I would say that the surveillance industry has sort of answered privacy by through obscurity. And so one of the things that we did at the conference on computers, freedom, and privacy, there's a conference on this topic, and there's conference bags that each attendee got. We made 500 conference bags, and we put a dome on each bag, the same as you have in the surveillance dome for the ceiling. And we put cameras in 4 of the bags with transmitters, wearable wireless webcams. So of these 500 bags, 4 of them had cameras and transmitters, but nobody knew which ones had the cameras and transmitters. And so what we did is we took, okay, here's what you guys in the security industry are doing about privacy. What happens when we do that? Now, if we also mirror that image, you need a ball around your head too, so, like a dark smoked ball around your head so nobody can see which way you're looking. And so that's what we should do about privacy if we're going to follow the lead given to us by the government. So here's the government saying, what are you going to do about privacy? I'm going to say, well, here's what you've done about privacy is you hide all your cameras in these mysterious domes. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to give everybody a wearable necklace, government issued perhaps, and we're going to put a little dome on it. And we're going to put cameras in some of them, and we're going to make sure that nobody knows which of them has cameras. And if somebody asks you, are you recording me? You're going to have to answer, well, why are you so paranoid? You know, are you trying to steal something? Are you trying to mug me or murder me or something? You know, so that is an interesting. I want everybody to think that question. It's really sort of rhetorical. It's very interesting to think about it in its real context of surveillance versus surveillance.
I'm going to split this into 2 parts. First, we're dealing with it in our particular product by not assuming that AR and putting a camera on a piece of eyewear is necessary to happen all of the time. If you're not wearing it at a bar, you don't have to worry about people sort of worried about you recording them in a bar. Instead, you wear it at home or wear it wherever you want to experience the type of things it can provide. The second part, though, is that privacy is a huge issue. And maybe there's a part social answer and there's a part technological answer. We have ways to talk about access to information, ways that you can apply to get information on people. What if people sent their information about what they were observing to a secure place and then had to go through some process to actually access it? Because, I mean, it's a lot of data to LifeLog. I don't know if anyone here has recorded tons and tons of video and been able to access and file it and be able to utterly find any moment and use it. Maybe if we limited why people could do that, people would feel a lot more comfortable than that if they could simply access it for any whim whatsoever.
There's going to be a lot of good input from this panel, and I can't offer too much. As a company, we're developing the nuts and bolts of the system, and our customers are going to be more concerned about privacy, and that'll trickle back down to us for what we can offer, and I'm sure we'll form more of an opinion as we move forward. I'll add a couple of interesting things as we get folks coming to our booth. We get questions of the where is privacy? In other words, they say, well, can the person across from me, can they see where I'm looking? Can they see what I'm looking at? Will any of the video or information, will that be showing up along the front of the glass of my eyewear? So the users are also asking whether they have the sort of privacy that they'd like. It's sort of another spin to it.
You know, one of the things that we faced is rather than looking at it from a theoretical standpoint, we're looking at it from a real standpoint because we actually have product that's shipping out into the market that has that issue today. And some of our new products, such as the M100 smart glasses that I'm wearing here, the final product, when it ships in a couple of months, will actually have a small indicator light that's connected to the camera. So when the camera is in use, whoever's in front of the camera can be readily available or readily know that they're being recorded.
So a lot of good answers from the panel. I guess you know, I want to hope that it's a transitional issue. You know, eyewear is a new category. I think people aren't used to seeing eyewear. People aren't used to seeing cameras, you know, somewhere on people's heads. I don't know, I guess people don't necessarily freak out if, you know, I take out my cell phone and I'm looking on the screen here and, you know, I'm typing away, but I could really be recording. But does that pose any privacy issues to anyone? I don't think so. I think it's just the newness of the fact, it's the fact that wearables are new, the fact that we have a camera attached to this wearable is new. I think the light is a good example, you know, to make sure people are aware, but lights can always be hacked. If someone is irresponsible and they want to record people without them knowing, I think there's ways to do that. I guess it's sort of like, reminds me of the adage, you know, bullets and guns don't kill people, people kill people. And I think it's up to people to use, you know, the fact that we have a camera on this device responsibly. I think it's up to the app developer community to figure some of the answers out, and we're looking forward to getting feedback from the app developer community when we release our device, you know, with its corresponding SDK. I think it's going to depend on how the apps are going to manage that. Maybe we don't have recording capability at all. Maybe the forward-facing camera is just for augmented reality and computer vision applications. I guess the answer is a little bit up in the air as far as I'm concerned. It's not, I don't think anybody in this panel has an absolute right answer for that. I think time will tell.
As a global manufacturer, this is really a challenging issue for us because not only are we addressing the issues here in North America, but we have various, you know, every part of the world, there's a different social norm. So for example, in Japan, you're not allowed, or socially from an etiquette perspective, it's not polite to answer your cell phone in the train car. You actually have to step out of the train car, between the train car to answer your cell phone. But here in the US, you know, everyone's talking away regardless of where they are. So I think there's definitely, it seems like as this type of technology evolves, there's going to be almost in a way a guidebook of social etiquette for how you use wearable technology. And you know, we as a manufacturer, we can put in the ability to turn it on, turn it off, light indicator on, light indicator off. But I think really in the end, we hope that, you know, us individuals with our ability to kind of really understand the social etiquette of our environment, that we police ourselves versus the government, you know, policing us.
Yeah, as Fraunhofer is a research society, we are more interested in the technical facts, but of course we are thinking about the privacy. And one issue in our see-through system is that the user, that the people in front of you see the picture you are seeing in the moment. And we are thinking about doing polychromatic lens coatings on the lenses so that you that the content on the display is not visible to the others, but on the other side, then the others can't see your eyes, and seeing the eyes of your talking partner is important. So it's a difficult thing, and of course, if we would add a front camera, we had to think about such things also. Yeah.
So, thank you. So, to me, there are two interesting matters here. There's the relationship between the company and the individual using our product, which is equally as interesting, I think, as the relationship between the person using our product and his peers. So let's say the latter was covered, but the former, you know, there's been some concern that Google may be using the information that its users are recording throughout the day for its personal monetary gain, and you know, call it beginning of career naivete. But I feel like whatever information I am recording right now should remain with me. So that's the philosophy that's going to motivate Meta's products moving forward. Yeah, I think that's another interesting angle.
Okay, and the final question that we're going to have for this group is, what is the future of digital eyewear? So, for example, is it depth cameras? Is it eye tracking? What's the next generation going to look like? You know, Steve walked through the previous generations of what's out there, what's available. What's the next leap that we're going to have in this technology?
So I have to say, you know, depth sensors are going to be the next step, and the step after that are going to be miniaturized depth sensors. And the step after that is probably going to be contact lenses. And the step after that will be BCI. And the kinds of user interfaces that we're designing today are designed for all of that progression.
Yeah, for me, the future lies in digital eyewear with multimodal interfacing, such like gesture or head or something like that. And of course, the design plays an important role. And contact lenses, it's a nice idea, by the way. And yeah, that's it.
So I think from Epson's perspective, again, we wanted to deliver the best enabling transparent wearable display technology. And you know, with our global resources, our scalable manufacturing, what we like to do is just continue to drive that technology, smaller, better, brighter, cheaper.
Yeah, I have to agree and disagree with some of the panel members. I think I don't necessarily agree with the fact that the future of, I think we're talking about user interface. So there's a whole chapter to be written on user interface for such a device. I think, you know, we're all at the forefront of that. It's at its infancy. I'm not sure I agree wholeheartedly with gesture recognition as the next user interface or gestures in general. I mean, if you agree with the fact that this is one of the value propositions of this device is that it's hands-free, now I'm going to tie up your hands to do a whole bunch of weird gestures. And, you know, try to do that for about 3 minutes. Your arms are going to get very tired. So I think there's a whole chapter to be written on, you know, what is the natural user interface for this device. I guess I don't have the perfect answer. I think we have some partial answers to that. We at Optinvent think maybe it's a kind of, you know, to use your cell phone as a very basic user interface, like a mouse pad, like a mouse. You know, there's voice recognition. I don't know if it's socially acceptable to talk to your glasses in public, but certainly that could be one. So again, I think there's a whole chapter to be written on user interface, but I think before we go there's another chapter to be written on form factor. So again, we at Optinvent are trying to make these things as sleek as possible, as light as possible, as small as possible. I think Google set the benchmark pretty high, although they made some other compromises to get there, which we don't necessarily agree with. But definitely miniaturization, I think, is a key to acceptability of such a device. You know, not only in the consumer space, but even in the professional space. It's got to be lightweight. It's got to be ergonomic. And you know, we're certainly trying to make these as sleek and as small as possible. And that's a major challenge for a see-through display. So I guess I'd say that's, for me, the future, if you like, or the future problems to be solved.
Yeah, I would say, as I said earlier, the future is Gen 5. I mean, we went through Generation 1 glass, which was the camera to the side of the eye, you know, the third eye. And, you know, back in 2002, I built the contact lens based display. And we built the brain-computer interface back in years and years ago, the BCI. So we've kind of done the contact lenses, the BCI, and all these other things. And I really think that the future is Gen 5 glass. And by Gen 5, I mean it's a 3D, true 3D, and it's extramissive. You know, extramissive vision is active vision. It emits and detects light. And so that, I mean, the Meta is an example of that. But I think also we can think more generally as the future is a glass that's very sleek and slender. It's extramissive. It's 3D. It's a Gen 5 glass.
I would like to, again, agree and disagree. First off, I think I'm surrounded by the future of AR. It's just I think that maybe a few steps have been skipped along the way. We haven't even hit widespread adoption of Generation 1 camera-based AR, and there's so many open questions about the interface. What exactly is a good interface? And the iPhone introduced this interface that revolutionized smartphones by how easy it was to use. It introduced some natural gestures, but other things, it was simply a convention. And I think understanding the balance between natural gestures and conventions that are useful, like a Windows icon mouse pointer interface has these conventions that people have used, and even though 3D user interfaces have been introduced time and time again, we still have a 2D desktop. We still integrate our life with essentially symbols that are useful and that we can perform work in an efficient manner with. And I think exploring exactly where a head-mounted display's interface goes is going to be one of the key things in the immediate future that has to be solved. And I think an entire book can be written on it, much less a chapter.
I'll show my bias again. Innovega uses a contact lens to enable a big, rich media from a Oakley-style eyewear. And so we'd, of course, argue that contact lenses will play a role in the future of wearable displays, perhaps a significant role. The other thing I'd say is with Google Glass, they're sort of pulling us all out of this grand experiment, a bit of a fringe business, into early adopters and onto an adoption curve. So we're going to see a lot of new products and product discrimination and market segmentation. And I think that's probably exciting for all of us. As I said earlier, we've all got a chance here. It's going to be actually wonderful. The last comment I'd make is I just see a lot of integration of the sensors and other components into the display. So as much as we start with saying we need a killer display and a pair of Oakleys, as we realize how easy and quick it is to add new components and integrate into far richer natural experiences. We'll do that as an industry. So I think the future of a wearable display is this more complex and rich wearable interface.
Thank you. I think a lot of the things that the eyewear industry needs in a product is already being discussed, but it ranges from built-in computability into the product. Has to be something that's seamless, that you know, you can put on in the morning, wear out in public anywhere, take them off at night, and a battery that will last that long. The other thing is you know, something that's comfortable, something that isn't bulky. A lot of that actually will be coming in 2014. We have a smart glass product out next year, the B2500, that brings the optics display down into a 1.4 millimeter sheet of plastic. It has onboard computing power and all those things, and we believe that next generation's only a year away.
Let's hear it for our all-star panel. Just two quick announcements. Please check out room 201 with the history of digital eyewear, 35 years of digital eyewear. Also at 6 p.m., Steve Mann and I, we're going to have a workshop on digital eyewear. The end of that workshop, we're going to submit a paper to IEEE. Everyone that's in that room will be an author on that paper.
All right, thanks very much. All right, we're running a few minutes late, so we'll get started here.